Hi guys, in this interview I had the incredible privilege of talking to Abigail, who grew up with a rare cancer tumour in her face. The tumour normally resides near somebody's heart, but unfortunately hers was in her face, and it caused her to have reconstruction surgery over one whole half of her face. Something that she was going in and out of surgery from the age of 6 and is still in and out of surgeries every couple of months for maintenance over her face. It is a fascinating interview of how tear ducts are built within your face, your nose, reconstructive surgery from taking bone or from all over your body, and that journey that she's had from childhood surgical trauma to finding help and being the luckiest girl in the world when an anaesthetist, when she was 6 years old, warned her mother that this is a long journey and that she may need some psychological help to get through it. Needless to say, that anaesthetist helped her so much with getting in front of the trauma, even though it turned up in her mind and during her teenage was a really hard time. She already had the structures in place with her family, with her mum, to know that when the trauma showed up, they knew what it was and they knew how to deal with it together. This is an incredible interview with a wonderful woman who is doing incredible things with Changing Faces UK to bring awareness of cancer and children's mental health. You don't want to miss this interview. But I will tell you again, little disclaimer, being the dickhead as I am every now and again with technology, I forgot to put my own microphone on. So I have added the questions and subtitles throughout this interview so that you know what I'm saying. And yes, there's a lot of flailing around with no sound from myself, but I've cut all that out and it's still worth a bloody good watch because Abigail is stunning. All right, guys, enjoy.
So I was diagnosed with my tumour when I was 6 years old. It was with the tumour, we don't know when it stopped, like when it came, but we removed it. That's the word. Sorry, we removed it by the age of 7. So that whole year was quite intense. We had like practically every week, like every other week or week, having surgery to remove it. It was quite intense. And then once that was out, we had like a breather for a little bit, but then we realized that, of course, to get rid of the tumor, you have to you can't just take out the tumor. Sometimes you have to take things with it. So a lot of my facial structures were gone basically. So it's like a house. Like imagine this, how I think of it, like a house, and imagine you don't have the scaffolding but you're still building. It's kind of like that. So we needed the scaffolding, so we had to start putting measures in place, things to keep my face from like literally falling and collapsing, because it, like, not figuratively, literally, because that was happening. But as well as that, I was growing. So every so often we'd have to go back in and readjust it, try it again. And as well as that, because you're practically every 5 minutes is going into mess with the body, you get reoccurring infections and all the usual drama. So that was literally up until 3.5 years ago, which is when I was 17, and I had something called reconstruction, which was a massive 17.5 hour long operation where they basically took the scaffolding away, got rid of all of that, and put basically bones from my body and blood supply and things like that, and made it a proper face that could function. And after that, which is now, I have been having what is kind of like maintenance. So every so often I need surgery. There are things that you just have to tweak here and there and finish off. And yeah, so that's where we're up to now. That's a lot. So the biggest one was from my fibula. So yeah, they took a bit from my skull. And my nose is from my rib. So yeah. Yeah, they take a little chunk out or a bit. I'm not really sure exactly how much. I know for the fibula, because that was the biggest one, which interesting fact that I did not know about is that you can, because it helps, your fibula helps with balance. If you keep a bit of the top and the bottom of it, you can easily take the whole middle and still function properly, which I did not know about. And that's basically what they did. So, yeah. Yeah. It, yeah. I didn't know all this. Apparently, I was shocked. I was sitting there and the doctors with my doctor. He was like, "Yes, we'll take this." I was like, "But how? But what about walking?" And he was like, "Oh, it's chill." And I was like, "Oh, okay, good to know. Great." Like he's like, "Don't worry, you got this." I mean, he wasn't exactly paraphrasing, but he was very much like, "It's all gonna be okay. You got this." No, of course. It's definitely changed me, and to be honest with you, I think it was massive. It's a big chunk of me. The change constantly was quite scary and daunting. I think one of the positives though was that I didn't know any better, because it was from when I was 6 years old. So it was very much like this is my life now, and I didn't not that I didn't know, it's just that I didn't think about it too deeply. It was more when I came into like high school, teenage era, where I was like, oh, this is actually very scary stuff we're talking about, and I don't really this that was when I initially was like, oh, that's not it. I and the trauma basically came and I understood it, because when you're 6 and up till teenagers, you're very young, so you don't think of it in a deep understanding way. You just think this doctor's hurting me. You don't think he's hurting me to help me. You just think, why is he hurting me? Why is he being mean? So when I became older and I was more in my teenage years, I developed a lot of like depression and anxiety and all the common things, because I was massively traumatized and I didn't know how to cope. As well as that, which I personally find quite interesting, is that when I was younger, I was a selective mute. And that was because I didn't know how to react to the trauma. And I was quite scared and worried and anxious and all those common words, because what do you do? And as I said, I was quite young, so I can't turn to the classics. So I just started having the control of my voice, which became my version of like acting out or having a tantrum, was me just icing you out with not talking. Um, but it definitely shaped me, all of this. And I mean, I wouldn't be here hanging out with you if it wasn't for it. So when my journey started, for the first, like, I would say month, I was quite good and I was very cooperative. And then I did a full 180 and was like, nope, not doing this, and became, I mean, problematic, but on the other hand, is it really problematic? But I was quite problematic in the way of like I would be like, no, I'm not giving you my arm, or like not happening and things like that. And I would stress a lot. And my it was actually really fun. My anesthesiologist at the time was like to my mum, that she was like to my mum, this is going to be a long journey. And we don't know exactly how long, but it's going to be long. Um, let's send her to psychology. And my mom was like, okay. Didn't think about that, but sounds like a great idea. So when I was literally around 6, I was put in psychology department, and um, it started off with helping like my selective mutism and my anxiety towards all these things. And then when I got older, I of course had breaks with psychology, but when I got older and I was seeing my psychologist, we spoke about the fact that I was scared of certain things in the hospital. We never necessarily said the words like medical trauma and things like that. We more danced around it, but those were the connotations. It was very much like when I'd say I don't like the beeping, and my doctor would be like, okay, that's interesting. Do you think that's maybe because of your hospital connection to it? And it was very much things like that. When I'd say I don't like it when the school bell goes, it scares me a little bit and I jump. and my doctor's like, oh, that might be because of something that happened in the hospital, all these types of things. And it wasn't necessarily said until I was around, I want to say in sixth form or year 12, around year 12, my psychologist was like to me, I think you may have PTSD. And I was like, cool. What do you want me to do about it? And she was like, well, our sessions are coming to an end, but maybe if you want, you can look into this because I think that that's something you're dealing with is PTSD. So I've not been diagnosed with it, but I've been pushed in the direction of you might want to deal with that. Yeah. 100%. I think for us, it was, there's no parenting books about this. So my mom was massively out of her depth. Like I love her dearly, but she of course was like, oh, what do I do now? So when I was sent to the psychologist, she actually had a few like conversations with her, like how do I work with my child to help me how do I help her? Because again, I was really young, so she wanted to just support me in the best way. And of course, she had to find help for that, which came within my psychologist in a way. So it was lovely because she had that support of a trained person who knows how to deal with this and this is their job. And my mom was able to be like, oh, okay, this is what she does. This is a reaction. Got it. I'll help her. And she realized like things like the me not talking to grown adults except my family. It wasn't me being rude or like just freezing them out because I'm being like a bit rude. It was she's traumatized. She's scared of adults because, for the last like year or two, there's been a bunch of adults telling her not lies, but not truths at the same time. And there's, of course, like a lot of these like hurtful, painful memories. And of course, she is young and doesn't get it. So my mom had to understand that, and my whole family had to get to know that system, if that makes any sense. And so, yeah, I'm pretty grateful that that anaesthetist was like to my mom, yeah, get your child help. Same. Oh, same. Oh, same. Oh my gosh, same. I had that during high school. I was like, how has she just got her life together? But I forgot she's not in and out of hospital. Of course, her life's not as complicatedly confusing. And I was like, oh, she must be sucking it up too. Great, I have to do that. So, yeah. So it was mainly with my family. I was struggling. Um, I was struggling quite a bit, and I didn't really know where to go. And my mum was like to my old therapist who we'd taken a break from them, was like, "Yeah, Abby's really struggling. Can you please have an appointment with her?" Because even though I was a teenager, which is old enough, I was still young in a way that I didn't make my appointments fully. It was more my mom would do that for me. So my mom was like, yeah, I'm just going to book you an appointment because you seem like you need something here. And of course, it's hard to speak to your family because you're so close to them. But um, I was just so like I couldn't cope. And eventually, my therapist and I spoke through the issues, and then my family got on board. And yeah, I that's actually on my to-do list. I need to deal with that, but I haven't got one in currently, but I do need to get one in. Um, do you want me to like, explain what it is or? Okay. Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, of course. Well, I'm very open. So basically with your tear duct, okay, so let's go even further back. When I was diagnosed, eventually we started, of course, in my nose, and then eventually we had to go like that, where we had to go to the mouth and the eye. So when we did that, my eye, my tear duct, which is like your lacrimal system, had quite a bit of the tumor in it. You can't. Sometimes you have to have collateral damage, and we took the tube out, like the real one out. That meant that I essentially started tearing a lot. Even like I wasn't crying, I was just tearing. And when I was tearing, eventually it caused massive infections, because that's just how it works. I'm not exactly sure why, but I know that it's not going in the right direction, because your tears usually eventually go into either your mouth or your nose, or it wasn't going in the right directions, causing infections, causing massive of hell. So in around when I was in year 6, so I was around 10, or like I was 10 or 11, I was that age. We decided to do something called we did a tube. We put it was like a thin little tube, literally plastic, and we tried that. And we tried it around, I think, 4 times. Each one failed in very different ways. One scratched my cornea, actually, so it was really, they really didn't like being in my body. So we took a break, and that was also done by a maxillofacial surgeon, not an ophthalmologist, which is eye doctor. So it was done by like a face doctor, not eye. So we were like, that could be a factor. So after that, a few years later, my ophthalmologist decided to try, but with a different type of tube, because there's lots of types you can put in. And same thing happened. They just, shot themselves out, all in different ways. But then I had my reconstruction. And after my reconstruction was the perfect time, because that's when you can actually put it in, because there's things to hold it in place now. So I was then transferred to adults, where they tried to put a tube in. And I think on the second go, I'm pretty sure the second go, it worked. It was working so well, actually. It was the longest one it had ever been in. It was honestly amazing. Like, I didn't realize how badly I needed it until suddenly it was in for a few months even, which is massive. I mean, some of them only lasted a week, so a few months was massive. But of course, I had my septorhinoplasty, which is a nose job, but not just a nose job. It's more for actual, not cosmetics, more for medical necessity. Yeah, so I can breathe properly and all those types of things. And they put, of course, splints in my nose and things like that. And of course, was swelling because I just had surgery. So my tube didn't love that. So it kind of, instead of just staying, it decided to start pushing itself out of my eye. So eventually I ended up in A&E, because I was like, this tube has worked so well, please do not, it needs to go back in. And sometimes the tube does pop up a little bit, so usually you just have to gently shove it back in, which is fine, it's very simple. But it wasn't going back in. So I was like, oh, shoot. And it just kept progressively throughout the day going higher and higher. And of course, I don't want it to scratch my cornea or anything near my eye. Been there, done that. So I didn't want round 2. So I went to A&E. That A&E was like, we do not want to touch that. Please go to a different hospital. So I went to another hospital, and they were like, please come back tomorrow when we have actual staff. And I was like, great, see you tomorrow. Eventually, a doctor decided that the best thing to do is take it out. So we took it out. She took it out in quite an uncomfortable way. That was quite traumatic. Instead of like either numbing me or something, she just kind of yanked it out, which was not my favorite memory, but it happened, and that's what happens. So now I don't have a tube in, but at least my nose is better. But yeah, so you all come. Yeah, so my tumor, the actual tumor isn't unique. If I'm being honest, it's the area my tumor was in. My tumor is usually found in the heart. But somehow mine ended up in the face. We're not sure how that happened, but it did. So I do have multiple doctors. When I was in pediatrics, I was under 12 departments, because there's no one doctor for the whole entire face. It's a lot of specialties I'm under. So a lot of specialties for each little bit of the eye. For the eye alone, I'm under multiple specialties. But then I transferred to adults, and I'm under specialties now. But the thing is, with A&E, I find A&E quite complicated, because firstly, you have to wait for hours, and you find personally, I find it quite an irritating situation when you know what your problem is, you just need a doctor to deal with it. But as well as that, one of my A&Es is for eyes only. So, for instance, do you know Moorfields, the eye hospital? Okay, so it's a massive eye hospital in London, and they only do eyes. Thing is, my eye, even though it is an eye, it also connects to other parts. So, for instance, my nose, there's a direct, so when the tube is in, it goes like, it goes, if you go to your, like, it goes like that in a way. So, it goes from your, like, the corner of your eye into the nose, like that. So, even though, yes, it said I need an eye doctor, I also need a nose doctor. So, it's quite complicated. So when that happened to me, I was like, well, the last person who operated on me was my nose. So I'll go to an ENT hospital because that hospital operated on me last. This is even though it's pushing the tube out, it's the nose that's the problem. So I went there. They, of course, were like, please go to Moorfields, which fair. They don't want to touch it. I get it. I'm very used to that. But that's kind of my problem. It's not, I do have multiple doctors. It's just which is the right one for which. Sometimes, yeah. So it's actually really funny. With this exact one, the instant that this one happened, I was in UCLH, and you get triaged before you see a doctor. And I went to triage, and I was like, "Hi, my lacrimal." This, to be honest, it was late at night. My my wording was probably not the best, but I was like, "Hey, my fake lacrimal tube is coming out my eye," and the woman just was like, "I'm sorry, what?" And I was like, "Yeah," and poor woman was like, "You don't have a cold?" And I'm like, "No." And then I had to explain to her, like, I have a tube in my eye and it's coming out, and she was like, "Okay, don't know what you mean, but okay." So she freaked out and fast tracked me straight away. But even though, yeah, usually the case. But even though you're fast tracked, you're still gotta wait in the fast track lane. And then after all of that, I had to then eventually go to this hospital, to Moorfields, and in Moorfields, I have to wait again. So there's a lot of hours spent, but I'm used to it. I've been doing it since I was so young, so I'm used to the drill. But it's just so funny when I was like, yeah, my tube's coming out, and she was like, "I'm sorry, please what?" Oh, same. Oh my gosh, so I'm the same. I'm very much like, this is what's happening. Please, can we do this? And they're like, okay. My one issue is I sometimes forget that not everyone understands me, in the sense of I will just talk in the jargon, because especially when I'm in a hospital setting, I assume everyone knows what I mean. And my mom's like, no, they don't. Like, just because you're in a hospital doesn't mean anything. Like, be realistic here. And so, like, with this poor woman, I was just like, yeah, my tube's coming out my eye. And she was like, I'm sorry? What? Like, this poor triage nurse is just listening to this random kid be like, saying, my eyes, like, and she's just like, are you okay? Do you need, like, what? But yeah, and I'm just like, I just need a dog just kind of shove that bitch back in. And she's just like, what? But yeah. Uh, I know. I feel. Oh my god. You know what? I've had so many of these moments where I'm just like, oopsie, I'm gonna go. But you know what? It makes for a funny story. So yeah. Yeah. No, it's not. It's fine. No, for real. Oh my gosh, because when I started high school and I was getting older, I forget, because I'm so used to being in an environment that just understands my medical crap, that when I'm in school, I just freely go with it. And my friends were like, I'm sorry, what? And I'm like, no, no, it's fine. And they're like, no, but you can't be in pain 24/7. That's really bad. And I'm like, no, no, it's fine. Like, it's so chill. And she's just like, that's not chill. And I'm like, And yeah, I had that, and my parents had to explain to me, like my mom, she had to be like, okay, yeah, it's normal, but like not for everyone. And I was like, oh, really? Interesting. So I mean, I just think that it takes time. I think that something, I mean, I forgot a lot is that these things don't just happen. You have to work on it when it comes to your emotions and things like that. Like, it does take a minute. And I think personally, I kept being like, no, no, I should be fine by now. And I had to learn slowly with either a therapist or someone in my family that I can take time. And as well as that, something that my family we're very into is actually just letting the emotions go through. So if I'm angry, be angry. Like that's okay. You're allowed to express it. If you are angry at something, be angry and all the above. Um, I mean, I think it's just that you should work like just go slowly and feel it all because at the end of the day you're gonna start at some point. It's just a matter of when. So feel it all. But I mean, that's what I've learned slowly but surely. But yeah, 100%. Yeah, my family, my siblings, and everyone, they're really good about this. Exactly. Like, you need to take a minute, if that makes sense. And I think, like, from what I've heard about your story, I think you literally nailed it and you're amazing in that way. And it's fabulous. Thank you. Two things is take it day by day, and as well as that, this is really random, but when I had my big operation, I actually brought a new teddy, like a plushie, because I wanted comfort for after the operation. So I got it, I think like literally like months beforehand, so I could look forward to something post surgery. So even though it's a bit horrible that you have to have surgery, I had that something to look forward to, whether for me it was my new plushie, but whatever it is for you, and also just to take it day by day because it's really not a race at this point. Like, I mean, I was rushing it all, but just take it day by day, cuddle with your new toy, just take it a minute. That's what I would say personally. Yeah. So oh my gosh, same. I have like so I have one teddy that I brought it actually in Great Ormond Street. Like that's because that's my main hospital as a child. And it when I say has been through absolutely everything, it is a part of the family now. And on top of that, like when I had my biggest operation, we brought a new one just so that I could have that comfort afterwards, so that if I felt like I needed like extra, but yeah, everyone has to have that comfort. Yeah, me too. Hey, it's been great to meet you. Oh, I'm so amazing.